to another edition of Let's Talk. It has been a great week for me, and I'm sure that it has been, at least I hope that it has been a great one for you as well. I have two distinguished guests that will be spending the next hour and plus minutes with me. And they tell me that the week has been wonderful for them as well. Tonight we are going to be talking about immigration. We are going to be looking at the African experience with immigration. So it is really a special privilege to be able to have with me on this occasion two African immigrants who live in two different countries. So we have joining us Dr. John Okon, an African immigrant who lives here in the United States. Is a communications consultant based in Maryland and has taught in a bunch of universities. He is also on the board of the disabilities program at the University of Port Harcourt. I will ask him a question about that, which actually is an indication of the fact that he remains connected with his homeland, Nigeria, where the University of Port Harcourt is located. I also have with me the Mr. Paul Unufegan, who is actually joining us right now from Japan, where he lives. It is my privilege to have him. And tonight we are going to be having a great time talking about the African experience with immigration. So, Mr. Unufegan, welcome.
Thank you.
How is Japan today?
Yeah, Japan is great. The weather is very good today. So everything's fine.
Right, you know, when you talk about weather, those of us who live where I live in the United States really don't want to hear much about it because we have really had a tremendously horrible experience with the winter.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and Dr. Okon, welcome too.
Thank you very much, sir. It's a pleasure, Paul. Good to see you again. Yeah.
You know, it's my hope that after we have this conversation tonight, you actually are going to be exchanging some information and planning to visit one another in the countries where you are. So, Dr. Okon, how is it where you are tonight?
It is good. It's much better than yesterday and 2 days ago. We were studying on Thursday, so that gave us an early weekend. Early start on the weekend.
Right. This is.
So it's much better today.
Right. This is one of those times of the year when one never forgets being an African, where the weather is warm all year round. Actually, in much of Africa. So tonight, as I said, we're going to be talking about immigration and the African experience, which brings me to something that happened the first time that I had you, Dr. Okon, as a guest on this show. This is not your first time. At that time, we were discussing Africa, and one of the things that you said was you described those of us Africans who do not live on the continent right now as being on voluntary exile. So I'd like to start our conversation tonight by unpacking that, by asking you, what did you mean by the term voluntary exile, and how does that relate to us?
Well, Dr. Ohiro, thank you very much again for the opportunity, and it's always a pleasure. In our last segment of this show a couple of weeks ago, we touched on so many subjects, and particularly talking about the immigrant stories, and I mentioned the term voluntary exile. What I meant with what that means to me, typically is that we all came here with one purpose. Most of us to study, to acquire knowledge, and back in the days when our forefathers used to come here, they will come to America, UK, Germany to study. They'll go attend the knowledge, and then they go back to build, to contribute, to the society. In the 50s, In fact, most people, as soon as they graduate, they're back home because one, when they get home, there's job waiting for them, and I'm of the opinion that even our education, my education here, is not so much for the mainstream society here. It's for to go back and build and empower most of our loved ones back home. But unfortunately, the early 70s took a turn to what I consider voluntary exile. We come here, we acquire knowledge. We end up, before you know it, we are married. Before you know it, we are raising children. Before you know it, we have jobs here. And before you know it, we become citizens. So it becomes, we become maybe economic slaves, contrary to what happened many years ago. So the term voluntary, to me, it typically means that we are the ones, we took our hands and applied for admission. We were given the opportunity to go to the embassy for visa. We got the visa. We came here not out of compulsion, but on our own, with intention of going back once we graduate. But unfortunately, it's become a long haul for many of us. And I must also say that our host country has been the greater beneficiary of our ingenuity, because we have Africans in different areas of endeavor. We are in every fabric of the society, intellectually and otherwise. I often tell my students that in every American university, there's an African student or African professor, and we are we've made strides in different areas. So, the sad part is that because of so many constraints, including security issues, many of us have not been able to go back, to contribute, to home where we came from. And I'm an ardent believer that you are never going to be respected for who you are in a foreign land. And as a result of that, I make concerted effort, to try to contribute at my expense, to a homeland. So that is what I meant by voluntary exile. Just the fact that we come here and we end up here, and then we become us against them. And of course, we are embodiment of the term diasporans, which is like a bad word.
Well, you know that you have actually just added more to the questions that I'm going to be asking you. So Mr. Unufegan, I'm coming to you. One of the things that Dr. Okon was talking about was that in those days, people came to this part of the world, studied, and went back home. But he's making the case that it's no longer like that. And for you in Japan, I think it's actually more telling, because most Africans who went to Japan so many years ago before you went there, Japan was not their destination when they left home. They went to other countries, and then from those countries they ended up in Japan without planning to end up there. And then most of them, practically all, it will seem, went back home. And right now Japan has a very small population of Africans, only about 40,000 Africans that are mostly from Nigeria and Ghana. The question that I have for you is that you went to Japan on purpose. You left Nigeria and traveled to Japan, went there for your graduate education, and when you graduated from graduate school, you decided to remain there. Why did you choose Japan, and why did you choose to remain there?
Thank you, Mr. Ohiro. My coming to Japan was to gather more knowledge. Actually, Nigeria in the 90s, we had a lot of political turbulences here and there in the 90s. So I left Nigeria with a view to study here in Japan, to understudy about the political stability of Japan. But now, Japan somehow, in the last 5 years, the political situation is also somehow. But after leaving Japan, I really came here to study. But my coming to Japan and going back is also a different year altogether, because I don't feel like going to Nigeria now just because of the security situation in Nigeria. When it comes to what Dr. Okon has said, that being here, most of us being overseas, it has become a thing of voluntary exile, so to put it. So it's a choosing thing, it's deliberate, deceitful, discretional for most of us to remain where we are. But one thing I will keep saying is that if we look at the immigration of Nigeria, or if we look at immigration generally, if we just leave it at education, it will look as if it is only educational reasons that make people to migrate out of Nigeria. So many people leave Nigeria, especially one, yes, to acquire knowledge. Some leave not only Nigeria, Africa, because of discrimination, for economic reasons. Some leave just for medical attention, to get good medical care outside, and so many other reasons people leave Nigeria. For example, I would say, like in Nigeria, or let me say in Africa generally, many people left Africa long ago out of discrimination, and actually they ended up having what Dr. Okon has called voluntary exile. Like we have in Ethiopia, many people left Ethiopia long ago to India because of the religion they were having there. And that religion, which is called Buddhism, now was really accepted by the Indians. So today, if you look at the whole world, people live for so many reasons, but that India is now seen as the origin of Buddhism. Buddhism actually came from Ethiopia in Africa. So back to the question you asked, many of us left Africa and we are now on exile compulsory. For me, I left Nigeria for further studies, but I'm unable to go back because of the prevailing security situation in my country now.
Wow, this is a very interesting conversation. It seems to me that the reasons why people leave actually you can put in one box, and then what happens after they leave is in another box. So even when you make the case that the Ethiopians took their religion, which was then adopted by India, that now gets credit for it, you put that on one side, and also what Dr. Okon is saying, that when Africans leave Africa to get this education, they don't go back, it is the host country that is benefiting from the intellect and the hard work of the African immigrants. So my question to you is that is there a way then for us to reverse this, for Africans to begin to contribute more, African immigrants to begin to contribute more to Africa than they are currently doing, even if we are on voluntary exile? The question is for you, Dr. Okon.
Yes, a very good question. as you've known me for the past 25 years, I happen to be a glass half full, kind of guy. So I believe there's hope, for Africa. There's hope for us. But I think we have to take the initiative, as most of us have had. You've attended so many conferences in Ghana and in Nigeria. You've launched your book in Nigeria. You've given out free seminars. You've tried to elevate the intellection of the people at home at your expense, and many of us have done that as well. I think it all starts from us. I believe that charity begins at home. I may be a dual citizen, but I don't have any other country that I can call mine. Unfortunately, the political tension at home, the insecurity, as Brother Paul alluded to, those are real issues, and the fact that it is us against them is very endemic, which is a problem as well. But I think I believe that like the old adage that they said it takes a village, to raise a child. The Bible says that to whom more is given, more is expected. And I'd like to believe that we have been endowed in different areas. We've been endowed in different areas, and because of like I said last time, what I can do, you cannot do. What Dr. Ohiro can do, I cannot do. What Paul can do, I cannot do. I think our success is going to come about us leveraging our intellectual, for a better good in Africa. And number two, I believe that, like they say, every 1,000 miles began with a step. The time is now. We need to begin to engage in different dialogues, in debates, just as this, to encourage some of our brothers and sisters who are here, to at least begin to take initiative. Now, what I hear most of the time, which we all are aware of, is that the situation at home is not. Many times it is very hard to go and expect a change of any magnitude because of the fact that our practices here, what we have imbibed here over the years, is a little bit different from what they do at home. And then you become a lone ranger, trying to effect change when the mindset of the people are a little bit different. And I believe that again, for what I do or for what we all do, it is incumbent upon us to try to raise the consciousness of the people, to the change that we've been exposed to, over the years. Most of the changes that we see, as you know, Ghana is one of the best models for democracy in West Africa now. So because of the process and system that they've changed, they've taken concerted effort, to make sure that they put processes in place, standards in place, and as a result of that, it attracts people to go to Ghana, to invest in Ghana, and I believe that can happen. I was in a conversation with somebody yesterday, and they were talking about Dubai. Dubai, the changes in Dubai and Nigeria. And one of the things that was upsetting to me was that when Dubai started at the same time with Abuja. And Abuja, if you go to the capital of Nigeria today, there's no running water in some of the places. The toilets are still unkept. But Dubai is a tourist, is a commerce center of almost of that part of the world, because people had vision, people had a goal, and they worked together, leveraged their intellect, and to bring about at the changes that we've seen, and the development that we've seen in Dubai. So I believe there's hope, but it starts from me. It starts from this forum. It starts from this broadcast.
Right, Mr. Unufegan. Dr. Okon has said a bunch of things that I would like us to address one by one. But first, he talked about what he described as an us against them attitude, which I think by that he was referring to how people back home prefer to think of the people who live here, who live outside of Africa. And it seems to me that there is a case to be made for that, because as you know, there is a heated electoral process, the politics going on in Nigeria right now as they prepare to elect a new government. And I have read some postings on Facebook by people in Nigeria, basically asking people who live in this part of the world not to contribute to the discussions because you don't live in Nigeria, so you have no stake in the politics, so why are you talking? So how can we change that? And how can we change it such that people here and people there, regardless of where we all live, Africans are Africans, how can we change it such that we all see one another as people who need to work together to cause the change to occur in Africa that Dr. Okon is talking about?
Thank you. First thing I would say is that most of us here, we are so engrossed into theories without practicals. So it's very difficult to solve practical problems with theories, especially as it's done in the Western world. Nigerians, they want to see real situation. Nigerians want to see you telling them what to do, and you being there with them. Nigerians want to see you, even when they are campaigning, for instance, the political situation, they want to see you there. They are not interested in Obamacare or the idea of Obama that later brought this one and the economy now moved to this level. Those are the solutions that most of us are offering them. And they, on their part, want to see practical things being done. But it's appalling for me, especially when I see many of them at home, to say, oh, you don't have a PVC. So because you don't have a PVC, the permanent voters card, you shouldn't contribute. So they see everything now as PVC. But I still say, where our heart is at home. That is the only place we can be recognized. We cannot be recognized here, no matter what you do right here overseas. So for me, I will keep saying that we have to do practical things for them to see. There are so many things that we can do that the people will now feel that we are working together. We are on the same page. For example, when things happen in Nigeria, or when Nigerians are going through situations, what we do is to write emails and do some other things. There are little help we can give to the kids. There are ways we can bring them up. There are things we can do that the politicians will not feel that we are coming to attack them or we are coming to take their position. For example, now Nigerians are very interested, even though we have our different languages. Nigerians who speak grammar, good English, are accepted everywhere. And most of us, because we've stayed overseas, especially those in the United States and America, the accent is quite different. Once you start speaking those grammar, Nigerians at home, they are threatened. They are threatened. So that's one thing. And if you come to it, many of us right at home there, we are good in expressing ourselves in local language or pidgin English. So one, if we have to come to these people, we have to put our grammar first aside. When you put your grammar first aside, the very first obstacle, then you are talking, then they can listen to you. So for me, I will keep saying grammar aside, one. Practical solutions, two. Because the person there, the woman there, the widow there, the child is not able to go to school, how to assist them one-on-one, that is the things we can do that will make us be absorbed into the society. But our own is to write email, Facebook, and do some other things. So as far as there's that grammar difference, as far as there are no practical help, it's going to be very difficult for us.
Yes, let me ask you to further break down what you describe as practical solutions. What will be the examples of that?
Okay, when we talk of practical solution, like Oyedebo, my mentor told me, say, if those who run away from responsibilities, they later become abilities. So if you want if you have responsibility, you take care of other people. You don't yourself become a liability, just as we are here now, liability on other people, like most of us who are unable to go home. Okay, we can, for example, there are many things we can do. Like in Nigeria, our children are no more studying again. First, they have we have problem of we have book culture problem in schools. The kids are not reading. We can help them with books. We can help these children. We can donate books to the school, to the library. Even if you cannot donate books to the library, we here overseas, it doesn't matter the state or the ethnic group. It could be Akwa Ibom or in the northern side or the eastern side. We can make textbook or notebooks, not for sale, give to them. We can help talking to the education authority, those who are administrators who are really taking care of our education now. We can go to the Ministry of Education. We can talk to our traditional rulers and so many others. Even the churches, like I keep saying, the churches are not doing enough. They are after miracles. There are people there who can be trained as artists, just painters and other things. They are not doing enough. These are things some of us can do. If we are not starting from there, we don't want to go into those areas. On our part, we can have foundations that we will always sponsor. In my own father's house in Afuze, Nigeria, there's nothing bad in having a place there as a home, putting some computers there for students to just do their homework or to type their assignments or type their thesis. Those are little things we can do, and as the people see it, they now know that this person is coming practically for help, not coming to take their chances or their political position, or is not coming to vie for House of Assembly or House of Senate. So these are some of the things we can do.
Dr. Okon.
Yes, I think Brother Paul, you've made a very good point, a very good suggestion, which buttress on the point that I made earlier also, the us against them. I believe that the divide is there. The us against them is there. The fear, they're threatened, by so many factors. There are many variables. There are so many variables, and why there isn't a connectedness. And part of that fear, sometimes it's not real. Like somebody once defined fear as false evidence appearing to be real. But we have, truth be told, we have so much to offer. We have so much to offer our home. But talking about education, I believe that education is the fulcrum for change. I can talk all the gibberish that I want. We can blow all the big grammar that we want here. is because of the fact that our exposure and because we are educated. There are places that I have been that my father never went, all because of education. So education is the fulcrum for change. When we talk about initiating programs and practical solutions, even with children being able to read, that is very nearing to my heart as well, and probably not probably to Dr. Ohiro as well, because we've been in conferences in Nigeria. We've seen the issues, we've done assessments, we've started initiatives to help. But I think it is more than providing books, for the children. For example, one of my areas of interest is working with children that has learning disabilities. Now, 80% of children in America have some form of disability, one or the other. And at home, children that are not reading, they're not reading because they're dumb. Some are not reading because they don't even know how to read. They don't know how to learn. Some have all kinds of issues that can be corrected. Okay? From simple ADHD, dyslexia, Asperger syndrome, autism, to NBLD. And there isn't a proper system in place to diagnose, to look at these symptoms, to diagnose them and intervene, properly. We see children here that are functioning with function at all levels, including kids that are challenged. I went to a school of deaf. They call it in my state, School of Deaf and Dumb, which is very derogatory to start with. My pastor called it School of Deaf, Dumb and Done. It's like if you're deaf, dumb, you're done. But here we see them functioning at high levels, and so we have to. I think we have to begin by trying to. One of the practical solutions, like you said, to help children, that creates special services for those children. Number one, there's no special education component in any of the systems at home. There's no special education, no special education facilities. There's none of that like we have here. So until we begin to train them, and bring this forth, like we've done in conferences. Yes, books are good, but at some point there are children that have underlying issues, which we know that here there are solutions. From stuttering or stammering, as we refer to at home. Children, when you see the symptoms, you diagnose it. Okay, then you can intervene. And also, I can also say this: over the world, including America included, and even more so at home, education is based on a standard that every child has to adhere to that standard. Education is not tailored to the personality, to the need of the child. So many times we're forcing children, that are different, to study based on the standard that is set for everybody else, and it becomes a problem. Okay, and one of the things that I advocate, I'm a great advocate of trying to tailor instruction to the need, to the type, and to the personality of a child. Because if you know your type, if the child knows their type, the child knows how they learn, it becomes easy. That's why you see all those kids not passing JAM. They cannot pass JAM. They cannot pass YF, first school living certificate. They cannot. Most of them, they're just cheating all the way, because one, they have issues. So I believe part of the practical solutions, other than books, which I totally agree, is that we have to look at how to reform, how to help them reform the educational system. Again, looking at the children, creating the components that we have here. exporting those things to them to help them to know how they learn. Everything now in Nigeria, as at 2 weeks ago that I was there, everything is autism. But there are so many different types of learning disabilities that the symptom overlaps with autism because there's no proper assessment, no proper diagnosis, and everything is lumped in one category, and those children cannot be helped.
Since we know this and we agree, you agree with Mr. Unufegan, and I don't think he will have a lot of disagreement from many people. Since we know this, and we also know that African immigrants in the United States, for example, and I won't be surprised if it's the same way in Japan. In the United States, African immigrants are the most educated of all immigrants in the United States. And we know, for example, that 40% of African immigrants have bachelor's degrees in the United States. 16.1% have graduate degrees, which is higher than the 10.4% of Americans who get graduate degrees. So what are we getting all of this education for if we are not going to apply them? Does that then fit into what Dr. Okon was describing as economic slaves, where we just get these degrees and just work and work and work and do nothing to help people that are actually in need? Mr. Unufegan.
I will speak as a Japanese now. Actually, right in Japan, it will be wrong to say about 10% or 5% of Nigerians in Japan have a bachelor's degree. Most of us here in Japan, let me say, it's not going to be more than 3% of Nigerians that are in Japan that are educated. Most people in Japan, Nigerians in Japan, they are out here to buy parts. They are businessmen. Majority are from the southeast. Their own coming to Japan is to buy parts, to load container, and to do some other things. That's why it's very difficult. Like in America, one can say, okay, there are a lot of educated people there, and you can they see the need for education, but it's not so here. That's why we have unions, we have groups, we have Imo Union, we have Edo Union. Majority of these unions are just doing contributions. They gather money just to do party. Right now in Japan, especially in Tokyo, when anybody loses maybe the father or the mother, the burial that is done in Japan is even more than the one they do right back in Nigeria. They print posters, they send emails to people, they do all sorts of things, they collect this money before they now go home. As if the corpse is lying in state right here in Japan. So bringing all these kind of people together here, with all these kind of people with low education, that's why it's very difficult for us here to come together to say, okay, education, let's get books. If you give computers to any person here, the person is going to Nigeria to sell them. I'm telling you the truth. If you give it to an Igbo man, I don't need to tell you what will happen. Or even an Edo man, he's going to open a internet cafe. So helping or doing other things educationally is not in the minds of most people here in Japan. So there are still other problems. There are still other solutions we can do. It's not going to just be on education alone. There's what we call performance management theory, which you can do. One problem that faces Nigeria, for instance, like my own part of Edo State, is during rainy season. There are a lot of hazards from wind, rainfall, and some other things. There are so many solutions. There are things we can do. If we don't, it's not sending money relief system. They are in Kano, in northern Nigeria. We see the neem tree, the one we locally called Dogoyaro, planted along the roads. It's not that these people, because the weather is too hot, that is why they are staying on that. Those trees is very difficult because it has a very deep tap root. We can help to plant trees. Have group. By the time I give $100 to somebody, that one is a lot of money. I know, like they said now that $100 will go for almost 20,000 naira. That one can help somebody. Just water these trees only in dry season, and that one can help. So our people here, there are a lot of other things. That is, we can create. We will have small farms for to create market for perishable goods. Small farms where we can plant little like rice or some other things, get money and help them at home. Or help them with small money to clear bushes. For our people here, business. So the issue of education is, or helping people to acquire education is not in our records here because of even the level of the people. Because majority of the people here, they are not educated.
Yeah, let me just toss one thing out there. It just seems to me that we're talking about the fact that African immigrants can do a lot of things back home, which is true, they can do a lot of things back home. But if we are talking about them being responsible for community development and for the development of human beings and everything else, in a system where their personal safety cannot be guaranteed, are we saying that the governments of Africa should be excused, that those of us who live in this part of the world should take on the responsibility of government without being able to have our own safety guaranteed as we do all of that? Are we excusing the government, Dr. Okon?
Being able to have our own safety guarantee.
The government has responsibility, to its citizens, home and abroad. We have embassies here and consulate here. Government has responsibility, and I don't think we can do the work of the government. Well, we are all part of the government, and I believe that most of the changes that has happened again, using Ghana as an example, has happened. Most of those changes has come from without, not within. Not outside the country, from people that are outside the country, contributing, putting their minds together, and trying to help with policies, advocacies, best practices. I remember in July, January last year, when one of the top Nigerian officials visited Washington, Professor Jega to be precise, and we were talking about some of the reforms that needed to be done. What he recommended, for the government. He talked about electoral reform. He talked about constitutional reform. Now, this was last year in January, and which, if those reforms were made, maybe things would have been a little bit different. But again, after saying that, he also mentioned that, he said that he is very sure that these things will not happen. He was very pessimistic about it, because the government, the congressmen, the senators, they tend to shy away from their responsibilities to the people, and the emphasis has shifted from being responsible for the people, or from leading, to what we call the term that somebody once said, politics. it's no longer politics, it's politics. And people are talking about stomach infrastructure more than building, infrastructure and building capacity and helping the youth in the country. So we cannot take the government cannot shy from the responsibility. We cannot take up the job of government, but we can, we can help to advocate with the policies. We can help on the advocacy side. We can help again to continue to look for avenues, to change, to educate the people. We can look for avenues. Again, that by having seminars, having opportunity to dialogue, creating forum, like this, and I'm sure there are quite a lot of progressive people in Nigeria, progressive in Nigeria, especially people, the baby boomers like us. So I think it is able to align ourselves with people who are progressive as well, and then embark on change. We cannot do what government can do because we don't have the capacity, but we can help.
Mr. Unufegan, I will come to you with something that may sound a little controversial. What if I said, or if anyone said, that the modern African by nature, whether he's an African who lives in Africa or who lives anywhere in the world, that by nature the modern African is selfish and only cares about himself or herself and the people closest to him or her, and doesn't care about the community, doesn't care about the country, doesn't care about anyone else. There is no sense of commitment to nation or to community. And that's one of the reasons why Africa is the way it is. People are just all into themselves. Will that be a bad argument to make?
On my part, based on the prevailing situation, what is happening now, I don't think it will be a bad argument because many people right in Nigeria now. Many people who are in power, they are just after what they can get, and the reason being that if you are in government and you are trying to do one thing or the other against the will of the people, that is against the will of other elected people, they will strike you. They will put you aside. They will still go on. They talk to the speaker, for example. They talk to the speaker, this is what we want. If you are coming out, maybe because you are coming from overseas, you see how it's done in America. You say, okay, we shouldn't do this. Let's do this one, let's do this one. You see, they push you aside because they want to make money. And if you don't make that money, your own family will be the first to be against you. Once you are elected, this is our time. Anybody campaigning for you is campaigning based on if you are there, what he or she is going to get. So once you are now elected, they say this is our time. So as you are getting, then you still share to other people. So I agree that there's benefits, just as he said it. There's benefits because even some of the politicians now consistency project, when they say consistency project, this is a project for your consistency. The money the lawmakers are supposed to make laws. Now the lawmakers in Nigeria are the ones getting the money, getting contractors, giving the contract to themselves or to their own person with a different name, and they execute it. Again, the truth of it is that if they even give this contract to other people, those people will not also do it. They will not also do it. So some of them even prefer to issue it to themselves. And now, that is where we talk about benefits. It comes back to where I started before, that there are practical things we can do. Like we have to teach morals. In Nigeria now, the children the school, like when I was in school, I was taught Bible knowledge. This is the time we'll be talking about religious knowledge. You know about knowledge, you know about morals. There's nothing like moral study, moral education. They are not doing it again. So you will not be wrong, because even right now, even those of them shouting, like I can say, it was when one of the Nigeria Central Bank governor was stealing money, giving money to the Boko Haramis. That is when he was shouting that money is missing, money is missing. When he was taking money and donating, that was when he was shouting. So this issue, we are here to talk about immigration. So I will leave politics aside. So, but coming back to your question, the politics is really on. There's nothing anybody can do, but we can start forming a new Nigeria from that education, from teaching the kids morality, for talking to the traditional rulers, for talking to the churches. Because some of our churches are also preaching about moralities, but when you get this money, you go to that church, that is the same church you will pay your tithes, and they accept it. So nobody will ask you, how did you get this colossal amount to pay as your tithe? You were paying 5 naira, now how did you get 200 million to pay as a tithe? Nobody will ask.
Right. So, Dr. Okon, I need you to push back at me because I'm going to make a point that may or may not sound very palatable. I am going to argue that in terms of the future of Africa, that the African immigrants, those of us, that Africans who live anywhere in the world outside of Africa, are really not the best hope for Africa. That in terms of what happens to Africa going forward, they should really be discounted if we are going to be looking at the future of Africa from politics. Because the African immigrants who go back to Africa to engage in politics really turn out to be just as corrupt as those that they met there, sometimes even more so. And if that is the case, which it is in nearly every case, perhaps, that they do not transform their knowledge of what they have seen in this part of the world to governance in Africa. Once they get there, it's all about enriching themselves as well. Since that is the case, unless you want to argue that it's not, should we really be thinking that African immigrants are the best hope for Africa? Shouldn't the focus be on developing a new crop of leaders within the African continent? Dr. Okon.
Well, very, very good argument. But first of all, I like to think I like to say that we are the beacon of hope. Most of the immigrants here, most of us that came here, we are hope at a micro level. I hope to our families, hope to our smaller communities, and hope to some, our state, because of we have actually, most of us have contributed, to the economy of our state, of our, small communities, and to some of us, quite a few, being in America is a career itself. We don't have to do anything. Just being the fact that you're in America, you're in Europe, you're in Japan, you're in Germany, your family or extended family are sure of some level of success, some level of contribution to the family. So we become beacon of hope, to probably at micro level. Now at macro level, can we impact? Can we make changes? Have we made strides? The answer is no. Why it is no, in my opinion, is because of buying into the culture, the culture of corruption at home, buying into the culture of mismanagement, buying into the culture of this is how we do it here, and that has become a problem. That has been the reason why many people cannot effect changes as they know it when they get to Africa. We say that it takes a tree cannot form a forest, and I think the political culture of our country is not such that just anybody with the right intention can go there and implement things right away. They will kill against you because they have their systems. They have the systems. They have from godfatherism to cabal, which is part of why people cannot get things done unless you are part of it. You're part of the system, and being part of the system means selling out. Selling out on your morals, like Brother Paul mentioned. Selling out on the morals and doing what everybody's doing, even with the highest degree of intellectual. We have, and it is hard, to go into a system that things are not done based on merit. It's hard to, and effect a change. I told you about the story of a man that I met in Atlanta, years ago, because he had the last name Unufegan. I said, "Are you in Nigeria?" He said, "I was." So I stopped him. I said, "Well, I'm John Okon. What happened?" He said, "Well, I was in Nigeria. And now I'm an American citizen. I cannot. I'm tired of the culture of corruption. I'm tired of the godfatherism. I'm tired of the insecurity. I'm tired of all, he lists all these things." And that's all it is. But one of the things that I said to him was that I understand where it's coming from. And there's some element of truism into those assertions. But I want to be part of a solution, not part of the problem. Because we all can make a change. If you all run out of the country and denounce where we come from because of the culture of corruption, as he put it, then what is going to happen to the country? And I think again, as I said, there have to be a concerted effort to kind of change the mindset of the people. Going back to the issue, have we been more of a problem than the solution? Can we go back and effect changes as we know it here? The answer is no, because of all the constraints and different variables. Okay, many of us have become, in fact, we going there to talk about change, sometimes you make a nuisance of yourself. Because when we talk about, as I mentioned last time, when you go into a new culture, you go through a process, an acculturation process. Okay, one of the processes is either you're going to converge into dominant culture, or you're gonna diverge. Okay, so if you walk in, you arrive in Nigeria today or in America, you have three choices. To act like Americans, or act like a Nigerian, or do a little bit of both. Okay, unfortunately, some of us we've assimilated the culture here, or the journey of the culturation has become that we've imbibed that concept, and that's who we are. And to those that some people that are not afraid to speak up, because most people cannot speak up when you get to, because of one, security reasons. We become, and they become part of the system. So it becomes, that's where the us against them comes in. So those that can effect those changes, yes, cannot, because they're not part of the in group. So that becomes for yes, we have. But I must also say, Dr. Ohiro, that one of my heroes in this present government is Minister of Agriculture, Dr. Okon, who studied agriculture as a PhD in agriculture from Purdue University. Agriculture is one of the most viable sectors in Nigeria right now because of its leadership. That's someone that was trained here and went back there, and then even within the cabinet, he vowed to make a change, and he has made a lot of improvement changes. When I talked to him, many years ago, he outlined one of the things that he was going to do. He faced opposition when he got to Nigeria, like privatizing, fertilizer. Trying to make sure that all the banks have a Greek desk, in the central bank. Working with central bank, they try to make sure that fertilizer will be sold in the streets like a recharge card. Making sure that 2020 we should not be importing rice from Thailand. Trying to look for ways to grow, yield, find a way how to mechanize agriculture. Looking for companies that can help with storage, making sure that no one would take a cow from the north, down to the south. Okay, and those he has made some reforms. One of the things, and to the point that we're seeing that now. Trying to bring Africa back from all dependency back to agriculture. Because I'm sure you remember the groundnut pyramids. Remember all the cocoa within the pyramids. All we left agriculture to oil. Okay. So but that's someone. So there's something to be said that some of us, so there's some people here that have gone back, and then you also have people that have been frustrated, like the former. Without mentioning names, people have been frustrated by the system, and those that have morals, like Brother Paul we mentioned earlier, some of them quit. Some would go with the flow because they say if you can't beat them, join them. So I believe, as much as I know it's hard to make changes, I have seen people that have made changes. I think it starts just like the same church. I don't think that anybody else should make a change. I believe that I can be the change agent. It starts with me.
Mr. Unufegan, as we should actually begin to round up, and we are going to continue to have these conversations. I'd like us to have another one of these sessions. But for now, I just want to ask you, what challenge would you like to throw out there for people who have left Africa and now reside in parts of the world outside of Africa? What challenge would you like to just throw out to them?
Well, one challenge I will keep telling them is that we all should remember home. Because like Romans 18:19 says, for the earnest expectation of the creature waited for the manifestation of the sons of God. Earnest expectation. So we can only manifest in our own country. It is only that country, Nigeria, accepted. So we are going through, I know many of us here, we are going through many things, especially in Japan. Majority of the people here, they are on marriage visa. There are a lot of discrimination. Many of them are not even allowed to open bank accounts. They open bank accounts on the name of their wives. So many discrimination like that. So I will keep saying that it should not be, it's good to swallow some of the bitter pills, but at times we all should always remember that for where the treasure, where your heart is, that's where the treasure is. Our heart should always be at home. We should always remember home. We should always remember that Nigeria or Africa is our base. That is where we came from, and that is where we are going to end. Like most of us in Japan, there's a word in Japanese they call jama. Means it's like jama is like you are not accepted. You are more or less a clog in the wheel of progress. So most of us here in Japan, for instance, we will all become jama when we are old. It will be very difficult. Even right now, I have never seen a black Japanese. You can see a black American. You are never given that. It's very difficult for you to get Japanese citizenship. Very difficult. In all Japan, you cannot get 10 or okay, let's say 10 black or Nigerians that have black citizenship of this country. So what are we going to get? The only place we are accepted is our home. We should try to do something. And back to them at home, and even some of us too still here, I will say one thing that always bring Nigerians here and the ones at home together is how to fight corruption. And the corruption we are talking about fighting is not you taking money. The people at home, they have all agreed that one of the changes we have to make in our political system, for example in Nigeria, is reverting, changing from presidential system of government back to parliamentary system of government. That there we can save money. Putting we should all agree that all our legislators and all, they should be on part-time. If there's part-time and there's no bellimatis, I think everyone will accept to work together, and even then, that is where we can come in. So by the time we are coming and we are still supporting their presidential system and their system, everybody looking at money, it's not going to be palatable for everybody. So for us here, it's good to go back home. And for you there at home who still want to come to Japan, I say good. There are so many advantages. I will not ask you to come because I know you will ask me, why am I still here if it is not good? It's good to come, but think twice before you go.
Thank you very much. Dr. Okon, what will be your challenge to Africans who live outside of Africa right now?
Yeah, I would say that again, starting from I didn't believe that there's hope. There's hope, and Paul's position, Paul's position about the Africans in diaspora who are trying to go home to help. I guess his position, which we all know, is that you should not wait for the government. You should not wait for anybody. You should take the bull by the horn, take a little bit of faith, go home, try to look for what you can do. Almost like, ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country. I know that many people are not financially capable to do that. Many people are also given to fear because of the things that we read and the things that are happening at home. But my challenge, I would go the same line with support here, that Africans in diaspora, Nigerians in diaspora, we I stated was that I feel that the government should be part of our integration, just like we have the President Obama is trying to integrate new Americans through different programs in the country. When they come here, he's trying to strengthen the receiving community, churches, stakeholders, schools, to teach them, to help them to integrate into the society much quicker and better. And also, I think there should be an initiative from home to try to attract the best minds that we have here, to be part of building our nation. I must also say that from Lagos to Benin to Port Harcourt to Abuja, to Bible to Calabar, and then the rest to the north, people, some of our counterparts, some of our brothers are doing very well, and they're making an honest living. We have professors in different universities. We have engineers that are doing well. We have pastors that are doing well and preaching, the unadulterated word of God. So people are doing well. Which we have a banking system that is thriving. You have bank managers, you have branch managers, you have people are doing well. So it is not that bad. It's bad, but again, it is not hopeless. If we go to Nigeria, if some of us need to take that leap of faith, to our brothers here, our sisters here, take a leap of faith, and I believe there's somewhere that we can fit it and help.
Thank you very much. This has been a very good discussion. As you know, I happen to think that there is a reason why we were born and raised in Africa. My dad used to always say when I was growing up, he didn't really care where we lived and where we chose to spend our adulthood, but he would always say, I just want you to know that regardless of where you live, there is a reason why God had you born here. God knew where his water will be safe. That is why he put his rivers on those spots, because he knew where the ground will not swallow the water that he had made. I think it's a blessing that we were all born and raised where we were born and raised. And tonight I have learned a few things from you. I have learned, for example, the word bellymatics. And I'm also Belitics. Yeah. So I think that it's time for us to begin to think of what's going on. If you consider that in the year 2000, there were 800,000 Africans here in the United States, and by the year 2010, which was just 10 years later, you had that had doubled to 1.6 million recent immigrants. So we should be asking ourselves, why are so many people living in Africa and dying trying to cross into Europe, into some of the countries where you wouldn't even expect people to want to go to. But I think that I share your views that we all have a responsibility to reverse the trend and to do what we can do in whatever way that we can. And now that I have also listened to your challenges, I would like you to actually challenge one another. I think that Mr. Unufegan would like to challenge you, Dr. Okon, to visit Japan. I have been there. So I am sure that he would like you to, maybe the next time you go to China, but just make sure you visit Japan. He has been to the States himself. Right, so the ball is in your court.
Visited.
Yes. So thank you very much, and perhaps one day we can all meet. You, Dr. Okon, and I have met and done things in Africa. And perhaps one day all of us here can also meet and do things together. I think we have that responsibility, and I think we can contribute a lot. And I think that our responsibility doesn't stop here tonight, but to also make sure that we have more of these chats going forward. Thank you very, very much. I know that for us it's Saturday night here, but Mr. Unufegan is ready to go to church now in Japan because it's Sunday afternoon in Japan. So God bless you. Have a wonderful, whatever is left of your weekend.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
That's all right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
That's all right.